Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Scribble Time with Panda, and today our theme will be classic cartoons. So what classic means is anything that was made in the past that's pretty old. So this probably a few years ago later. So, or think about a classic cartoon that was probably around when you were little or probably before you were born. So today we're going to be drawing just some of our favorite classic cartoon characters. So if you guys have any suggestions, please post them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as quickly as I can. So let's get to drawing, and we'll start off with Yogi Bear. So anyways, hope you guys are having a great day. It's a little bit dreary today here in Seattle, but you know, we'll make the best of it, and we're gonna try to just lighten up the day with some cartoons. And so today we're going to be drawing Yogi Bear. Yogi Bear is a Hanna-Barbera classic. So I'm just going to it's going to be fairly easy since he's also a bear too. So we'll draw our panda with with the usual signature hat I'm going to try to do something a little bit more. Let's see. So one of the things about I love the efficiency of the Hanna-Barbera style. Like, I didn't used to like them growing up. I didn't watch too much Yogi Bear actually, but as I got older and as I started learning how to draw, and when I started looking at some of the old designs like Hanna-Barbera, Flintstones and such, there's a really care and a sense of design with these old cartoons that I think it's still prevalent in today's cartoons, but they're definitely the pioneers of that type of stylized, moving away from like the classical Disney look, which I really like the classical Disney look. Don't get me wrong, but there's some styles are different, made for different uses, and so for the TV Hanna-Barbera style, it's made for a quicker turnaround. You're trying to make television shows that are really quick, and when you don't have the time and the budget to make them like Disney. Disney looks nice, but it's expensive to make because it takes so many people, so many things so many layers to your drawings. So you have to paint it, you have to draw it, you have to ink it, you have to paint it, you have to layer it, and so there's all these people that are involved with this the process with the traditional Disney film that. It gets really expensive, and if you don't have, and it also takes a long time to make too. So part of the UPA style, I guess, or the Hanna-Barbera, what they were doing is they're trying to make cartoons that look good, but done quicker and cheaper. So you might see in some of your cartoons, if you're not familiar with how animation is produced, with Disney, they had to hand draw every drawing per 24 frames a second, and so you can imagine that that's a lot of drawings. Whereas with this cutout style, with Yogi Bear, they were able to like take certain things like, and make them kind of like a puppet, where the eyes would be on, instead of drawing the whole thing, they would draw parts of it and reuse other parts, such as like the eyes, or maybe they keep the body still, but then they can make the mouth move or the eyes blink on a separate layer. So there's different uses to them. I try to redraw when I do animation. I try to redraw as much as I can, but there are times when I have to do shortcuts where things are just taking too long, and like some of the animated shorts I'm working on right now, for the Panda is Fat and other Panda haikus, you can see that some of them do take a long time for me to release because it's just me that's drawing it, and I don't. And I'm trying to redraw certain. Let's see here. I think I need to go like this. I'm redrawing certain frames because I want it to look and feel alive and a little bit more polished, although I'm not using as many keyframes, which is the number of drawings per frame. I know I don't know why I took out his thumb there. It just felt it's still relatively early in the morning for me, I guess. Relative meaning I'm usually up around 2 a.m. I'm trying not to do that so much, but usually it's because now that we're at home, I have my family at home, and so sometimes family comes first for us, and so a lot of times when we're at home, it's like I want to spend the time with my family, or I have to parent my kid, and so what ends up happening is that let me move the tie over here. I think the tie needs to come out. The tie needs to the tie needs to be set free. He has this like square shaped tie. So I'm just gonna bring it out here. Yeah, so being at home, it's definitely can be busy because we got things like, you know, we don't eat out as much. We have to, make sure our kids go to bed. Our kids, sorry, not kids. And we have to make sure that, things are working in the house. Like it always comes first. And so sometimes that causes me to stay up really late. So there's Yogi Bear. And then we'll do another one called, let me just look in the chat. So if you guys have any suggestions, please post them. I'm all ears. The next one would be, let's just do another fun one that I'm a big fan of. And that's Marvin the Martian. Marvin the Martian. He is an old Looney Tunes character. He is kind of he's kind of a stickler. Like he's like very by the book type of guy. He has I'm just gonna draw him here. He's very particular. He's an alien. He's a Martian, right? And so he's very calculating. He doesn't have much emotion, even though in this picture he does. But usually he's like, oh, I think he's almost a little bit cold and calculating. And so he was created by Chuck Jones, which is one of my favorite, my ultimate inspiration in terms of just style and sensibility, and just like I would highly recommend studying some Chuck Jones work. He invented the Michigan J Frog. He did that short. He did the Grinch Who Stole Christmas short. He did Ricky Tikki Timbo. He's won Oscars. What else? Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. He invented. I believe he invented. But you can kind of tell, like, if you watch enough of his shorts, like, or if you start studying his shorts, you realize that he's contributed a whole lot to the Warner Brothers, the old Warner Brothers catalog. And so a lot of animation history and sensibilities is credited to him as a result of his work. And so I would always think about his work just in terms of just the style, and the discipline that he had too. He that's one of the things I try to keep and remind myself is to not get too distracted. Obviously, I don't do a very good job at it on certain days, but I try my best. And sometimes it's hard when you're like really tired, and you obviously should watch for your health. But in terms of just like on some days where it's you're tired and you don't want to draw, it's like, well, you got to keep drawing, because if you want to get as good as this guy, you have to put in that work. Okay, so this is usually all black, so there's really nothing to color here. I'm just going to color a little bit thicker so that yeah, I'll do it like this, where I'll just color it in and then I'll just erase it. If you're at home drawing with a pencil, it's probably easier just to draw on those eyes first and then shade it around it. For me, I'm working digitally, so it's a little bit easier for me to make these really clear lines. Also with ink too, I would recommend not doing the eraser, because it might smudge up your drawing a bit. So yeah, I remember in university, that's when I started really getting into Chuck Jones. Or at least I remember my mom actually sent me a video. She had sent me a phone call, or she called me to tell me that that Chuck Jones was on TV for on a PBS special, so I watched him. And back when I was in college, and I was kind of just having feeling a little bit discouraged with school. I wasn't really happy at that time. It was raining. It was miserable. I remember, and then she called me to watch TV and told me to watch the special, and so like I watched it, and I was like afterwards I thought, you know what, I really want to be, I want to do art. I want to be an animator. Now I never ended up becoming an animator because it was one of the things I wanted to get into, but and it was weird because at first I didn't really think I was that great at drawing, so I thought if I was an animator, maybe I could get by with not drawing that well. So and so that's what I decided to do, and eventually I worked on some games doing animation, but it wasn't something I enjoyed a lot, and it was weird because I still clung to that idea that I wasn't very good at drawing, and so I kept I read books on animation, obviously Richard Williams' handbook or this animator survival guide. Even if you're not into animation, I still highly recommend it because it's a very good resource to learn about just how to just make your drawings feel so alive, feel so feel very have weight. It's really, I think a lot of art is about I'm trying to get the skirt there, get his little skirt working here. It's a little bit thicker because he's a chubbier guy, but just how to get your drawings to feel believable almost, and it's weird because like I never thought that like some of those things just seeped into my work eventually, once I started practicing and getting a little bit better. So I would really recommend, if you guys are looking to study art or looking to do cartoons or just drawing in general, I think it's a valuable resource for any artist just getting into it. So yeah, I just think that learning just about, because it's also about observation, and a lot of art comes through just observation. I know some people really, they really like the idea of drawing from your feelings and getting the raw expression out, and certainly there's merit to that, but I do think that if you want to become a more effective artist, there needs to be a sense of discipline, even if you're doing something like abstract, where you just need to get a mastery of your craft. It's not, I think right now there's like this idea that, or there's this habit that I see of people wanting to it's all about the idea, right? It's just a thought. It's not necessarily about the execution. And so but I think that kind of makes for I don't think I like that type of art where it's the idea and there's no skill really involved. And I think the problem with that is that discipline just gets chucked out the window. And so I don't necessarily agree with the idea that it's just the idea, because everybody has a good idea, or everybody has ideas. If you want to make a name for yourself, it's about being able to execute those ideas and and bring it to the world. It's a birth process, so you gotta start with the idea, you gotta nurture it, care for it, and then eventually I'm gonna cheat here and give him these little because I like the circles, but yeah, so that's I'm gonna add a little bit of darker shadow here because it adds a little bit, makes it feel a little bit more, add more weight. I always like adding a little bit of thicker lines near the bottom of the edge, like so. Okay, so again, these oh yeah, by the way, these are going to be available on my site at punchypandas.com/scribbletime. Scribbletime is one word, so make sure that you guys can check those out and download the coloring sheets afterwards. So let's turn that off. Let's do, oh, and I see in this chat we got some more suggestions. So we have Wile E. Coyote from Hans, good morning. And from Hector, we have, oh, Heathcliff. Wow, that's a very old one. And I kind of know what that's like. All right, let's do Wile E. Coyote, but as a panda. That's kind of weird. But I was just talking about Chuck Jones, so like, yeah, let's do another Chuck Jones classic. Let's put Marvin off to the side. We'll put Yogi Bear off to the side, and we'll put Wile E. Coyote. And I'm just gonna have him sit on a rocket. You know, one of his usual bad ideas that he has. And yeah, I just love just the sensibilities, like all that stuff, all those things like, oh, like cartoon characters running off a cliff and then pausing for that brief second. That was invented by Chuck Jones. Like that, those are the things that we consider tropes now in cartoons. Like he did a lot of that comedic timing, or in those comedic situations. You know, things like painting a black circle on the wall, and then that becomes that becomes a tunnel or something like that. You know, those kind of gags are just so good. Now I wish I could say that I would be I can't definitively say like those type of gags aren't being done these days anymore. One, because I don't watch as many cartoons these days because of time. I would love to watch more cartoons, and I usually am. I think with cartoons nowadays, it feels there's so much content out there that I think that that there's just you're kind of having this thing where you start having to prioritize what you really want to watch, because there's just not enough time in the day to do anything. So I don't watch TV every day, actually. I kind of watch YouTube just as just random videos that I just put on as I'm talking, because they tend to be more podcasts than than actual TV shows, because I feel like cartoons, you kind of have to like, you can't just listen to them. I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of it. But like a podcast, you can. And but to be honest, I think there's some types of shows that when I watch it, it's a lot of talking. So I guess I could watch them, or I could listen to them, but it's like, what's the purpose of making a show, an animated show, where it's just nothing but talking? I don't understand that. Animation's it's a visual medium, and so it's like, let's take advantage of those things where instead of just talking. And I understand, like, sometimes when you're watching a show or a movie where there's some intense dialogue, and there's some intense dialogue, and so it's like you get to see the mastery of the animators trying to add acting to their characters, to these and there's some really great acting, but also what happens is like it comes at the expense of like making it interesting, because it's like, why do I want to see someone just talking all the time? And I think with Pixar, I love their work, and there's moments when it's like there's just really great acting, and moments where they just kind of like let the moment just sink in a bit, which is great. But when lesser studios do that, it kind of comes off as like it kind of comes off a little bit like overbearing, like it gets a little bit boring. Or when it's not done well, it just feels boring. I feel like I don't want to pigeonhole animation into a type of genre or whatever. I mean, make whatever you want, and and I think there is a value to doing all sorts of type of genres. But I think when it's an overwhelming amount of shows that are doing that, then it starts to be a little bit. It makes me less incentivized to go watch them. And it's interesting because in Japan, like they'll have these slice of life type of shows where it's like they could have just filmed that like with real people, and yet they don't, and it's all animated. And I think there's something from a cultural aspect that's pretty interesting to me. So I just think when it's always if all animation was that, then I kind of be like, well, I don't think you're taking advantage of the medium. Okay. All right, so there's our Wile E. Coyote. We're going to do some other classic cartoons. We're going to do Hector from Heathcliff. Okay. Heathcliff is kind of like the I don't mean to dog on him, but he's kind of like the B-rated like Garfield. I felt like growing up, because I remember seeing him. I'm like, he looks kind of like Garfield, but I don't know if I feel like he's quite like the same. So Hector looks like. Let's get a picture of Hector. He's this cat right here in this photo. He's like the one that's on the right here. I never watched this show growing up, but let's give it a try. Let's give it a swing at it. Okay, so let's do. I'm gonna put Wile E. Coyote down here. So sometimes I could do drawings where it's like it feels okay to just give him cat ears, give him a headband. So one of the interesting things about this is like you look at a character like Hector here, and he's it's like there's no reason why he's like, what's the purpose of him just wearing a bow tie with a collar with no shirt at all? And I think that's just the thing I love about 2D, where it's just like you can just do these little shorthand things and it still looks like it works okay. Like, and I think when I saw things where like that trend where we started taking cartoon characters and translating them to 3D, like, you know, Peanuts characters and you know, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and it's like it just doesn't. It feels kind of weird once you start like adding those layers of dimension to them. Where you know, they do it well. It's just it doesn't feel like it has the same kind of charm as like the pencil and ink, where you just you're just you're just creating a character, and you're just adding things like, oh, he's got a bow tie, he's got a Mickey Mouse wears a pair of pants, but he doesn't wear a shirt, and it's like, but it still look visually appealing, and I just love that about cartoons, where it's like you could just create these characters that in some ways kind of don't have to make sense all the time. Okay, I'm just gonna put his hands behind his back. I'm gonna add some about the boxing gloves, of course, just to kind of. But yeah, just gonna kind of give him some puffy arms. Let's give him some puffy arms here. So I'm just gonna kind of poof. So I might have mentioned this before, but lately I've been listening to a lot of Studio Ghibli soundtracks, which I just realized we're just available on Spotify. So I kind of geeked out a bit, and I was like, they're all here, and I can finally watch them, or I can finally listen to them. So there's some good stuff. So if you guys have any good soundtracks to listen to, please recommend them. And I'm kind of looking past the like the John Williams stuff. I mean, obviously I love his stuff too, but it's like I'm looking for kind of just anything new, anything kind of jamming. Okay, so that's what we have for Hector. Okay. Let's do what's Kid Copper from Silverhawks? Okay. Oh wow. Okay, so some of these are definitely very old. So we're gonna go. We're gonna do one of these. So we're gonna put our Wile E. Coyote off to the side. Kid Copper. Kid Copper is this character here. So we're just gonna run with that. Just like a very shiny character. It's got wings. Here's a sample of the wings right here. Like so. Okay. Now we're just gonna run with that. We're just gonna go whatever, Panda looking over this way. So one of the things I keep mentioning is like when I was growing up watching cartoons. Before middle school, I watched a lot of the old Looney Tunes, and for a while we were watching old Disney cartoons, but never like G.I. Joe or Transformers. I think I saw a little bit of Transformers, but I don't really have much of a memory of it. And I remember looking at some of the I remember some episodes, I think, with like the Dinobots, but I remember one of the things was like we couldn't really afford the toys because I have 6 siblings, and so there wasn't enough. My parents couldn't really buy us a lot of toys, but it was I think that benefited us in many ways, it was. But the show, I remember a few years ago back in college, like I finally came across a few more, and I was like, I started watching them, like, man, these aren't that great. Like in terms of storytelling, it's just like, and when that show, The Toys That Made Us came out, I started watching like how they came up with the story of Cybertron, and it was and you know, basically there's this guy who just uh, locked himself in the room. He had to come up with the story for the toy maker. And he's like, this is what we have: the Autobots and the Decepticons. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of, you know, and it's, ever since then it's kind of like that's the lore. But you know, so that's kind of how sometimes there really isn't this this long thought out process. Sometimes like a good idea can come from very quick turnaround time. Now the thing is, the other thing is though, the movies would have to the movies are another story. It's like it just feels like there's an inordinate amount of money being spent on those movies that to me didn't really translate well to a good product. But you know, a lot of kids grew up with it, so I don't really think they're kids movies though. Alright, so we're gonna go with this look. And to make it shiny and chromy, I like to add some like dark highlights here to kind of and then I just put this base here just to kind of help me like figure out the geometry of the panda. And there's the here's the wings or the lack of wings, like so. I think he needs to go a little bit higher. Maybe we can change his arm a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. This might end up being a disaster. Let's go like that. Sorry for those of you who are drawing at home, if you already put down those lines, I apologize. But you know, this is just me sketching, so I'm allowed to make mistakes here. I think he can. Attach it to his body. How about that? Attach it to his body. We'll think of this line like that. And then we just go like, do these lines and then kind of do like these very subtle C shapes. Like so. Okay, and we do the same over here. Give him some abs. What a big circle. Big belly button. I guess they kind of have underwear too. Make it all shiny, like so. All right, so there we go. That was kind of this is kind of interesting, but thank you for the suggestion, Hector. I'm gonna switch to a different topic here. Let's do so we got Kid Copper. Let's put them together. Ooh, I'll look at that, Hector. That sounds like a pretty cool suggestion. Okay, let's do something else a little bit more classic. How about I'm gonna do a what's the word? Yeah, let's do an Oswald Rabbit. Okay, now Oswald the Rabbit is very old. He is actually the precursor to Mickey. So I'm just gonna do a quick one. He looks like he looks like so. Yay! Oh, it's not gonna work. Oswald kind of looks like that. So let me turn off Hector for a little bit. Then I'm gonna do Oswald the Rabbit. Oswald is gonna put him over here. I don't know if I drew the similar pose for Mickey when we did Disney ones a while back. But anyways, I was thinking about, so again, this Friday, we tried to do this last week where I wanted to do Fan Friday, but there weren't any drawings available. So I'm going to open that up again. So if you guys have Fan Friday, you can send those to nolan@punchingpandas.com, and you guys can get a chance to have your drawings being remixed by yours truly. So they don't have to be panda drawings, they could be all sorts of drawings. So feel free to just add those in. And okay, we're going to add that little widow's peak here. I'm going to color him this time, just because, like, or maybe I'll leave it like that. So then you guys can color it in too when you guys go onto your sheets, when you download the sheets from the website. So then he's gonna have, let's move that over here. Make his leg a little bit thicker. I'm gonna add his tail like so. Yeah, let's push that leg back. I think this leg needs to go further back, like so. I haven't played the video game Cuphead, but I know it's been really popular one because it's just it's a well-made game, and then the aesthetic is just outstanding. So Haven't gone to it yet. I met a couple people who've at some comic shows who worked on that game in Vancouver. So fantastic property. That rubber hose animation. And I think we need more of that kind of work that honors the past, honors the legacy that came before us, you know, versus sticking with what's trendy or topical today. Okay, so let's try and figure out this tail, because the tail is a little bit tricky. Like so. And then we're just going to go Alright, so we got ourselves an Oswald. So you guys can color all this in, you know, feel free to just get all these dark areas, and then you can make your own lovable character. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. Fix him up. Okay. Alright, so let's go to where's some other suggestions that we got. We got Droopy. Okay, let's do Droopy. Let's go draw some cartoons. Alright. Yes. Alright, let's move Oswald off to the side here. Now Droopy obviously looks this is going to be an interesting one, because you don't look too happy. Let's choose that. There we go. I don't need these folders. Okay. All right. Let's move Droopy down there, and then we can just go The interesting thing about Droopy is that, like, I never see him like fall asleep. I don't think he usually falls asleep. We're gonna give him the half eyes. Give him these little ear. We'll give him the dog ears. Here, let me just take that out. I'm not drawing this very good. I'm being drawn as a panda. So I'm gonna try to get the feeling of Droopy, but I may not be able to get like all the correct proportions, like you know, like because obviously he doesn't have a neck, so we're gonna try to work around that limitation. And you know what's kind of cool is, like, I thought about it too. It's like, oh, what, you know, if I've never been approached to do like a licensing thing with my characters, but you know, doing these kind of sketches is like it does show like, oh, what if I were to, if I wanted to make like some toys for fun, and how would I go about making them, and how would I fit them according to the Panda form factor. And so because I think like the Pandas form factor, it kind of lends itself to a pretty cool there's some potential, I think, to like like money dolls, right? Like money dolls and Kid Robot type of things, where you could just or Funko Pop dolls, they all fit the same form factor, but they're just done in this different way. Obviously I don't have a factory that can make plastic figurines, so that's probably the biggest limitations for me to get any interest from larger parties. Although right now we don't know how many of these companies with licenses are going to still be around, or how they will still have their own licenses. That will be interesting to see after all this shakes down, let's just say. Because from what I hear, yeah, let me change the arm, because I feel like he needs to have that droopy arm like that. Yeah, so from what I see, it's gonna be, things are gonna look quite different once we can get out of our homes. All right, so there's our droopy. Hope you guys like him. Yes. Okay, so we're right. So again, thanks Hector, by the way, for the shout out. Yes, if you guys like what you see, please feel free to like this video when it gets uploaded. Subscribe to if you know anybody else, or if you like to see more of this type of art being done, and art tips, art instruction, art talk. It's been great just to be able to do this every day, so it's been a lot of fun. Let's do gummy bears. Oh boy, gummy bears. I used to watch gummy bears as a kid. The gummy juice, man, that gummy juice is always like the stuff that I always craved, especially coming after school. Because it's like, oh, it just looks like some delicious juice. And our parents are like, can't have too much juice, because you literally be bouncing. Gummy Bears was a show, yeah, where these bears in the forest have access to gummy berries. I forgot what they call them, but it's like the special juice that makes them bounce around. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, the animation when they actually like send it out to a quality studio, like, was actually really good. Let's do the mama. Yeah. He also had a really catchy song too. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. I'm pretty sure you could probably find clips of gummy bears on YouTube or Disney Plus. Actually, you know what? I never realized that. Maybe I should go check that out. The Disney Afternoon. Now, I know some people like to say, "Oh, I would like to really see an updated version or of such and such a thing," you know. And I agree to an extent. Like, it'd be really interesting to see, like, oh, what if they like took, you know, a more realistic approach, or not a different take on gummy bears. But at the same time, I'm lately I've been kind of thinking about if I really want that, because, you know, whatever it's going to be remade, it's going to be remade to a different audience, and it's going to be remade into something that that's not going to be what I would want, maybe necessarily to my taste. Like I was talking about it earlier with what was I talking about? I was talking about with, like, yeah, animated shows these days, like being all you know, about talk versus like action. You know, that's kind of a trend I see, especially with like comedy, where it's just like comedy is about, to me, is good comedy is about establishing and setting up and you know, doing a payoff, you know, more thoughtful type of, I'm more into the more thoughtful type of comedy. But it feels like, you know, when some of these comedies, the later comedies came out when I was in college, like, it just felt like it was like everybody trying to say something funny. There wasn't even any setup. It was just like people are just trying to say something funny and just act goofy, just right there, and trying to get this one laugh, right? Versus actually taking the time and the care to just build something up, you know, and then you get it when it finally does come to the payoff. It's like it's so rewarding, because you spend all this effort in your story or in your joke trying to craft it and get it to some getting it to a point. Whereas when I watch things like Saturday Night Live or some other even a lot of kids shows, they kind of do this where they just try to say something like witty and quippy, and it just doesn't jive with me as much these days. Like there's no payoff, because I think the problem with that is if you're trying to go for the quick laugh, you kind of it kind of seems to happen more with contextual type of humor, where it's like, oh, it's pop, you know, riffing on today's pop culture, right? So if you say something like, oh, you know, you have a bunch of gerbils singing Backstreet Boys or something like that, or you know doing a dance to some late 90s song that you grew up with, it's like it's gonna make sense to like only people who actually grew up in that era, and it's not really you're not really making timeless comedy. Okay, so there's a gummy bear. I think that's how you do it. Oh yeah, let me just give her some. Wow, gummy bears, a blast from the past. Okay. Okay, so I think we were about an hour here, so thanks a lot, guys, for hanging out. It's been a lot of fun. If you like what you see, if you want to keep supporting the Panda, feel free just to like this video, subscribe, and yeah, just feel free to also comment and tell me what you guys would like to see from these channels, and what other topics you guys would like for me to cover. So anyways, I hope you guys had a lot of fun with just watching and drawing along, and you guys have a great rest of the day. Please, if you guys have drawings you would like for me to check out and riff on, or maybe even comment on, feel free to just send them over to nolan@punchingpandas.com, and I can get to those and show them on the show on Friday. So anyways, you guys have a great rest of the day, and stay safe and healthy. Cheers.